Hello, friends. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. I am back to read from chapters 51, 52, and 53 of Dark World Lightwork, and those chapters are called Racism is an Inferiority Complex, The Lincoln Project, and Not an Escape. All right, let's go. Throughout the journey, I was tested in many ways. One of the most constant and strenuous battles was dealing with racism and bigotry in Orange County, California. Las Vegas, Nevada has many faults. The entire world knows this. However, two of the city's virtues are inclusivity and diversity. In Las Vegas, it has been a long-standing tradition that the only color that truly matters is green. Race, culture, sexual proclivities, religion, and so on all take a backseat to commerce in the city of sin. It's not exactly a righteous matrix, but the result is a culture where race isn't at the forefront of people's minds. This is a hard thing to accomplish in the United States of America, and Las Vegas pulls it off quite well. I honestly rarely experienced racial prejudice growing up in Vegas. I can't remember ever being followed around a store or given bad service based on the color of my skin or my cultural background. The schools that I attended weren't exactly mixed. However, I was never the only black or brown face in any of my classes. As I've mentioned before, outside of being harassed by cops when my dad got a Mercedes, I don't remember any standout incidents where my culture or race was at the forefront of any interaction. The sordid history of this nation has largely been swept under the rug. This is a problem. The spirit of the native inhabitants of this land is restless. The ancestors made sure to create unease in the spirit of anyone stepping foot on American soil, whether you were born here or not. That's simply how energy works. Orange County is not like Las Vegas. If Clark County is a melting pot, Orange County is more of a bubble. It is a long-standing Republican stronghold in a proudly blue state. Much like Orange County in southern Florida, some of the least adaptable people on the planet flock to these locations to avoid diversity and inclement weather. I was the weakest version of myself when I chose the area because I knew that it would be an easier place to live. I am a 5'4" golden brown girl with a quick smile and a very cute small dog. Most people in Orange County were as offended by me as they would have been if I looked like Mike Tyson. I loved it. It was comical to me. These people did not understand nuance at all, and it was juvenile. I figured if they were intimidated by me, they had every right to be. I was able to observe human psychology and sociology during this time. It was eye-opening. The population of the area is largely white, wealthy, and conservative, with a large number of Asian immigrants, mostly from Vietnam and China, following close behind. Unfortunately, many of these immigrants have adopted the racist views of white conservatives in the area. This behavior was particularly concerning to me. Many immigrants innocently come to this country without a proper understanding of the dark history of this strange place where they decide to make their lives. Moreover, people in Southern California are just not nice. I think that constant exposure to the sun and warm weather has cooked their brains. I could just be projecting. I'm a friendly person who loves animals. The best thing about the coast is that people bring their dogs out with them all year round. It's incredible. I couldn't help but have a constant smile on my face on our walks. I was always fawning over dogs and I couldn't contain my excitement. 99% of the time, I would be in the throes of a joyous exchange with a cute little animal. I'd look up only to be met with a scowl or an eye roll from the pet's owner. It was a fucking buzzkill. I thought of having a shirt made that said, "I'm smiling at your dog." Instead, I settled for one with two skull hands giving the middle finger. All right, and now we're going to read from The Lincoln Project. I'd been looking for a car since I made it to Southern California. I even rode to Los Angeles to test drive a Honda Odyssey. I made the trip with a fellow car dweller. When I couldn't rent a car with an out-of-state ID, we made the drive in his '87 Chevy. During the test drive, I could tell the Odyssey had engine problems like mine. I decided not to make an offer. Years passed and I got the itch again. This time I became hyper-fixated on at least trying to get a new vehicle with the little money that I had left. I spent days at the library searching online. I even drove around to used car lots in the area with no luck. Finally, I found a car that piqued my interest for whatever reason. I could not tell you exactly what attracted me to it. Let's just say at this point, the spirit moved me. The car was at a dealership we'll call Sleazy Motors in Anaheim, California. It was not too far from where I was staying at the time. I found the ad on Craigslist. The car was slightly above my price range. It was also a reddish color, which I definitely wasn't into, but overall it looked to be in pretty good shape. I made an appointment to test drive it on a Monday morning. The entire experience that followed was surreal. It was another one of those situations where I was making moves, but certainly not because I wanted to. What can I say? The spirit moves me. I didn't want a maroon car, and I didn't really want to pay so much for a car that was so old. I had no intention of buying the thing, yet there I was on the way to check it out. Here we go again, I thought to myself as I parked near the lot. Every time I tried to make headway on a car, it was as if I was an observer watching the experience unfold. Rarely did I agree with my own actions, but I made the moves without questioning anything. As the years on the streets passed, I found it increasingly difficult to engage in social situations. Most of the time, my living situation wasn't relevant to the conversation, so people had no clue. The only time I was able to talk freely about being homeless was to other homeless people. It was like I was leading a double life. I had the version of me that was part of the world, and a version of me that was a ghost. All right, and now I'm going to read from Not an Escape. The search for cars continued on and off for years. I also kept trying to find a mechanic to replace my engine, but at the end of the day, the dark night had more than one issue. One day, the key fob suddenly stopped working to open and close the doors. I was told that the issue was likely due to a faulty fuse box. The mechanic said that the entire system would need to be replaced. Who had time for a fuse box when there was also a leak in the power steering pump and all of the suspension was shot? We just checked out after a few days in a pretty nice hotel when I lost the key fob on the beach. Literally minutes after I paid over $600 for a replacement, I got a call from the lifeguard tower telling me that my keys had been found. I was so upset. I thought that I just wasted a ton of money, but for some reason, my old key would not work to turn on the car anymore. On top of that, the new key stopped working to open the door after the first hour. I was forced to use 2 separate fobs to get into and operate the car. I was so frustrated by this time, I just wanted it all to end. I replaced the rotors to stop a nasty grinding sound that made me want to pull my hair out every time I hit the brakes. I felt like a prisoner of war, like a lab hamster on a wheel lined with razor blades. Daybreak was like being waterboarded. I was constantly drowning and still parched. Each morning was like a slap in the face. I asked God for a sip of water, and he gave me vinegar on a sponge. A year or so after the failed Lincoln project, I started to get the itch again. I needed to at least try to get another car. I hated that feeling. This time was very tumultuous for me. My mind was restless. Once again, I was feeling like a loser. I had even less money. The worst part, instead of investing in a car, I spent thousands, $1 at a time. I was frantic and determined. The trauma of sleazy motors was long buried under a year's worth of struggle. I got back into the habit of searching online daily. I had limited resources and only so much time online. I searched every used car dealership within a 25-mile radius with no luck. I had several private owners stand me up for test drives after I trekked across town to see a car. Most people didn't respond to my queries at all. I should have taken all of it as a sign to stop looking, but I simply could not let it rest. I spent hours every day in the library searching the internet. I had a test drive scheduled every few days, but nothing was working out. It was socially draining. Craigslist was a somewhat outdated platform for buying and selling cars, and it was ripe with scammers. However, it was the only place that had listings within my price range. You know what they say, you get what you pay for. Every time I tried to search, I kept finding cars that were different from mine. Different, not better. The Dark Knight still looked good. I got compliments on it regularly, even with all my earthly possessions strategically crammed into the back seat. The car and I were alike in a lot of ways. From far enough away, or at quick enough a glance, we both looked like we had it together. Even at our worst, we never failed to impress. Every car I test drove had something wrong with it, and none of them were as nice as my car to begin with. One thing about motor vehicles is that they all seem to develop similar problems around the 10-year or 100,000 mile mark. I had my car for the whole 100,000 miles. I knew what was up with it. That brought me a great deal of comfort. My grandmother used to say, better the devil you know than the one you don't. In my heart, I knew I would keep the Dark Knight until the end, but I played along with the back and forth storyline anyway. It's not like I had a choice. All right, and that was the last 3 chapters. I cannot remember these names or these numbers. It's all very a lot for me. So we just read chapters 51, 52, and 53. Racism is an inferiority complex, the Lincoln Project, and not an escape. And we will be reading the next chapters, which are The Last Days, Operation Trojan Horse, and The Caged Bird Sings. Would you believe that after that, there are only 6 more chapters and then the book is finished? I've finished reading excerpts from the whole entire book. We're almost done. What am I supposed to do when we're done? Start it all over again and read different excerpts? That is so fun. So I'm excited to see what happens once I finish. And we are almost there. So I will see you soon.